Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Creative Manitoba in Winnipeg. I'm very pleased to welcome you to Treaty 1 territory and Métis homeland. My name is Carol Finlay. I'm the Education Director here at Creative Manitoba, and we're very happy to welcome about 15 people who have traveled to Winnipeg from all across the province of Manitoba today. So we have a room full of people here. And we have a room full of people online from BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. So we're very excited to have all of you here this morning. For the folks in the classroom, if you're going to ask a question, and we certainly will encourage that, we'll pass this microphone around so that everyone on the webinar can also hear you. If you're online, please just chat through the chat box and we'll get your questions and comments that way. I would like to thank Kurt Tittlemeyer, who is here from Culture Days Manitoba, who actually had the idea from all of his consultations across the province that this was a needed topic. So this seminar is a direct result of Kurt Tittlemeyer's work, and we're very pleased to be partnered with Culture Days, both Culture Days Manitoba and Culture Days National. This webinar will be posted online. It's being recorded, and we will post it on both the Culture Days site and Creative Manitoba site. At this time, I would like to introduce our presenter, Crystal Kolt. Crystal is the cultural coordinator of the Flin Flon Arts Council. She's also a very talented musician. She's a choral director. She directs the Flin Flon Arts Community Choir, and she has the Order of Manitoba. She's been on the Culture Days Task Force here in Manitoba and coordinates Culture Days Flin Flon. I've known Crystal for 7 years, and I would say that she is a very creative, visionary leader in her community and indeed across Manitoba. Please welcome Crystal Kolt.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carol. And it is a real pleasure in so many ways for me to be here today to meet all my fellow artists and art coordinators in the province. Welcome, and it's so great to connect with you. I know that you live in a rural community. It's really important to have a chance to network. So that is great. Also, all the people that are out in the rest of Canada, that's usually where I'm sitting on the other side of the computer. So I give you a special warm welcome and a hello from here in Winnipeg. I want to thank ACI Manitoba for making this possible, and also Culture Days Manitoba for also always being there for me and making this happen. So I'm calling this presentation Out of the Ordinary. I find that so many times that in smaller communities, that's where we feel that we are someplace in the middle of the ordinary. And I've been able to experience quite the opposite of since I moved to Flin Flon about 21 years ago with my husband and my 2 kids. Then a 3rd kid came along the way. And so we've been able to just develop the arts. There's a vibrancy that's happening. I see all across Canada, but I've seen it firsthand, of course, in my own community, as you see it all in your own communities. And we were able to take advantage of not only this talent, but also this new thing called Culture Days, and to move up to be #1 in the country for communities under 50,000 and #4 overall in the country, which we're really proud of. And so that's what we're gonna start with. I'm gonna move to the next slide, hopefully. Okay, so Flin Flon is, you can see there on the map there, we are it's about a 9-hour drive north. It's actually 740 kilometers, or about 800 kilometers north. We moved up there, my husband and I, in 1995. And if you can sort of look, you'd see it's about 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg, and about 600 kilometers north of Saskatoon. We consider Saskatoon very close because it's only 6 hours instead of 8 hours, and that's the sort of the way we sort of see things. We had, my husband and I had met at the University of Manitoba School of Music. We had studied in New York City with the renowned piano duo instructor from Juilliard, Janine Dowis. And as we were practicing our art, she was saying, really, you should go to a smaller community and really help, let that flourish. And she actually meant Winnipeg, but we took it to the next step. And the next thing, we kept on driving up the end of Highway 10, and that's the end of the road. Highway 10 takes you to Flin Flon. And we were able to just realize more than we ever would have been able to realize in a large urban setting. And that's not to say that we don't take advantage of large urban settings, whether it's Carnegie Hall or whether it's the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. We use those as opportunities to keep developing. So that's essentially where we came. How we got up there is that my husband had been accompanist for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet and Contemporary Dancers for about a decade, and we were always sort of trying to figure out how do we get up to the poverty level, actually. And then when my husband decided, we had the 2 kids, we decided, well, we have to come up with another plan. He got a law degree. My dad had been Deputy City Solicitor of the City of Winnipeg, and we happened to find a Winnipeg Free Press with a little ad about this place called Flin Flon, Manitoba, which we thought was about 400 kilometers closer to Winnipeg than it actually is. And we just decided to go for it, and went up to this community, not realizing at all the amazing things that were going to be happening to us in the future. And so this is a little bit about what our what the main street of Flin Flon looks like. It's set apart from other northern communities, I think, in that it has this really, it's very rocky. It wouldn't be what you would consider to be a prairie community at all. We have the choir, which is now, we performed in Carnegie Hall a couple of times and Lincoln Center a couple of times. We have a large urban arts center. We're connected with TIFF. There's flies the size of birds, and we like to brag about things like our name is from a dime store novel character, and so it's a little quirky little town. And I have a little vignette that you probably have seen if you're as Canadians, which kind of. Oh, there's going to be an ad. Sorry. That'll disappear soon. There we are. Oh, thanks.
Flin Flon. Flin Flon. How did a town in northern Manitoba get such a strange sounding name? Well, it's quite a story. It's named for Flin Flon, Flin Flon for short, the hero of a dime store novel. Some 65 years ago, Tom Creighton, a Manitoba prospector, found and read The Sunless City during his wanderings. The story told of a Mr. Flin Flon who built himself a submarine to explore a lake that had no bottom. But it wasn't bottomless at all. Flin Flon came upon a glittering land built of gold and silver. He had many adventures in this strange place before escaping back to the Earth's surface, leaving the gold behind. Tom Creighton, the scholarly prospector, struck gold in 1915 and named the spot for Flin Flon's lost treasure. Gold. Well, there wasn't much of that, but there were other metals: copper, zinc, silver, and cadmium. Enough to start a mine. Enough to start a town. this wilderness of rock and muskeg, the strange name stuck. The first to come were adventurers and pioneers, just like Flin Flon. With the train came new townspeople, business, supplies, and civilization. And up on the hill, the statue of Flin Flon stands guard, overlooking this town of 10,000 people that grew up around the mine shaft, here in the only place in Canada named after a science fiction hero.
Okay, so, sorry, everybody. YouTube, you know. Makes you want to dance. Okay. Now, I'll just go to this one right here, I think. Yep. Okay, so does anybody remember that vignette? Yeah, we all, you know, with the, you know, they were great in those days. But anyway, so when we arrived, my husband and I arrived in Flin Flon, that's what I knew that vignette. Also, I went to St. Mary's Academy, and my teacher, my science teacher, had been from Flin Flon, Sister Marilyn Gibney, and she said, Flin Flon is the best place to live. And we saw rock, you know, in those days, and this is the 1970s, you had a black and white picture in a science book, and I went, sister, I don't get it. But I remembered that was a good place. And so when we decided to move up there, those were the only two things I knew. When we were up in Flin Flon, there wasn't a choir, there wasn't an art center, there wasn't the Central Canada Film Group, there wasn't the Borealis Chamber Choir, of course there wasn't any culture days, there wasn't any home roots, but there was still a spirit. There was something really interesting happening in the community. And within minutes of Mark arriving, he was part of like virtually all the church organ playing, you know, gigs that were there. And then there was a country band and 2 rock bands that he was involved with immediately. And people knew we were musicians, and they started telling us stories about how rich the golden years were in Flin Flon. And with the Flin Flon Glee Club. And so I remember getting a cassette recording of the old Glee Club years, and they were good. And to tell you the kind of history I started to realize that was happening in Flin Flon is that Neil Young's grandma, Jean Young, was playing in Flin Flon, was living in Flin Flon. Neil would come up, would visit all the cousins, and John Vickers was the store manager. And John Vickers is, who, if you don't know, he's just passed away a few months ago, one of the great all-time tenors, Luciano Pavarotti and John Vickers. And I wish I would have had it, but there's a great picture of him in Pirates of Penzance. And so it just tickles me to think of Jean Young, Neil's grandma, accompanied the piano for John Vickers. And that was kind of the vibrancy. Also, we realized, we learned that there was a really unusual investment early on in Flin Flon. There's this connection with Manhattan since the beginning, where Cornelius Vanderbilt Whitney, actually Flin Flon kind of saved the family heritage, and they invested $28 million into the mine. And what that did with the Vanderbilt and the Whitney connection, there was always this understanding and desire of high art, or just, I don't even know how we want to define that, but they really valued that. And then they also realized that to invest in a community, if you could hire anybody, if you could hire somebody that's either a good hockey player, people still recognize us being a hockey town, or a good singer. Like if you were a good tenor, you were hired on the spot in the mine. If you were a good bass, you got a second interview. And so that's the history of the town. And so we'll move on here a little bit to the next slide. So, like I told you before, it's located 740 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. It rests on the edge of the Canadian Shield. And I'm setting this all up because we're going to be talking about limitations and assets, you know, in a few minutes. But there's very, very little flat land. It's beautiful, and the houses are nestled between the rocks wherever they could manage to be built, and you can sort of see that there. And at first glance, when people come into town, and anybody was at contact a few years ago, it looks a little ramshackle. There's the feeling that the mine has been closing for 80 years and the mine has been open for 80 years. And so there's that little bit of a tug and pull there, but there is a richness that we have found there, not only with the ore that the mine was able to extract and give all of us in the province such great wealth, but also within the talent, be it whatever, with the arts or sports or whatever that we found there. And it's spunky, of course, and it's called the city of Flin Flon. You get to be called the city after you have 10,000 people, which we were about 20 years, but we hold on to that. Once you're a city, you're always city, and so you know, that's the name that we hold on to. I think we talked about this a little bit. So as I alluded to, that becomes the unofficial supplier of hockey greats. At least 17 NHL players have come out of the town, have a population of 5,000, including Ken Baumgartner, Reggie Leach, Jerry Hart, and the toothless wonder himself, Bobby Clark, and they are there all the time. Bobby has a cottage there. And between that and the sophistication of the arts and culture, it has this interesting air of confidence. Like we kind of feel that we can we can try to do things, or at least that's sort of the appearance. And we actually have this really, and it's taken a while, but this relationship between the arts and sport community to a certain extent too, which you know, we all, you know, play together. And so now we're going to be talking about challenges. That doesn't mean we don't have the challenges. The one I had for about a decade was the name Flin Flon, was identification. When I first moved to Flin Flon, I used to complain about the name all the time. It was so difficult to try to convince a symphony, or when I was speaking to even Elliot Roberts, Neil Young's agent, and calling and saying, I'm from Flin Flon. Usually there's a bit of silence. They call somebody to the phone and they ask me to say it again, and then there's a bit of laughter. And so it took me a while to get, and that's just an example of one event that we were at, and it was Flin Flan, cross it out and turn it to Flin Flon. We have flip flop and Flim Flam. You know, it was something that took us a while to get over. And then there's a statue of Flintabity Flon. I used to complain about that for about a decade. I wanted to be represented by a wolf or an Inukshuk. I wanted something that I considered to be more dignified. I protested. It wasn't fair. Flinty was not going to define me. And I didn't want to be defined by the middle-aged, chubby prospector with red glasses. That was something I considered a difficulty to try to get over top of, to be considered like sophisticated, especially as we were trying to move the Flin Flon community choir up into the world. Also, another challenge was that we were quirky. We have this humongous smokestack in the town. You might have seen there. And when we moved to town, I said, "Wow, you know, take a picture in front of the smokestack. Go stand on that rock. You know, we're going to take a picture of you." But I said, "Well, I'm on a rock." I was just in New York City 2 years ago, and now I'm in front of a rock in front of a smokestack. And then there was also, we have these sewer boxes that we're really proud of. They are scientific marvels. We won't talk about that now, but they are, but I would just sort of nod and say, yeah, great sewer boxes, and just go, man, what did we get ourselves into? But that was something I had to sort of get around. And then the name, half of the people it's Flintabity Flonton. Other half of the people, it's Flint and Batty Floniton. It's definitely one way or the other. I'm not sure exactly. It's only been 21 years exactly which way it is, but that is something I was trying to figure out how to get around the name of Flin Flon. It just, the book itself is not necessarily Shakespeare, and so we were anyways, that was something I was trying to figure out how to essentially. Here I am in this place, 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg. How do I create? How do I build something? And it's kind of self-serving, because it was almost for me, like when you're coming from a place like Winnipeg or New York or whatever, there's some things that like a good latte. When that came to town, it was like, oh, thank God, I have a latte. And so there was the same with art and culture. It just was really important to me to be able to have that. Another challenge, of course, we talked about is distance. So airfare, if you were to go and get a ticket tomorrow to come to Flin Flon, is about $1,200 return. You can go many places in the world for $1,200 return. The Calm Air has been fantastic for me, and I'm able to get seat sales for about $500. But that's still, if you're a small organization, for everything you do, like for our big production of Grease, we have sound techs, and we have people in the orchestra, and we have directors and fight directors, or whoever we're having. That's a lot of money that you're trying to figure out how to get around. And not to mention, it's a 3-day travel. I did the night bus because my husband was coming in separately last night, and it's a 12-hour night bus. You leave at 8 at night, and you arrive in 8 in the morning, and it's not easy. Now you become best friends with the people on the bus by the time you arrive in Flin Flon, the next day. But there's that. And then there's also accommodations. Anybody you bring up to Flin Flon, you have to find a place for them to stay. If there's a big group of people, you have to find either billeting or try to wangle some kind of deal. So that was a challenge I faced as well. And then there's another challenge we had, and some of us were talking about that here already, was limited spaces. I want to do something, and there's a wedding in the community hall. I want to do something, well, we can't use the church or whatever. That seemed to be a challenge that I was faced with as well. And I think, I'm assuming everybody has faced challenges of space and location. And I mentioned that we're built on rock. One of the stories I have is that for Contact, anybody who was up in Contact a couple of years ago, for Manitoba Contact, we ended up wanting to have the Le Vague de Cirque, which is a small Cirque du Soleil. And we said, this is great, everybody's going to love it. And when we started to get into the contract and speaking to the people, they have spikes that have to go down 4 feet. And I thought, oh my God, I need a diamond drill. Like, I don't know how to, do we have 4 feet of empty space that we can drill things in? Or how do we do that? And we did. I'll tell you, there was one space, even flat places that look like it might be, it's maybe about a foot of soil, and then it's all rock. There was one place that the mine decades earlier, close to the stack, had built an apartment, and they had blasted a basement. It had all been covered up with earth, like for the last 30 years, but somebody had remembered that there used to be an apartment. So there were still cement walls, so we had to make sure that when we put those 4 feet spikes in, that we missed a wall. But being on rock it's beautiful. Now, it is beautiful. When I walk to work, I walk about 2 blocks to the elementary school. I cross over a babbling brook. I walk through a forest. I walk around the north end of a beautiful lake. I walk up a cliff, there's stairs. And then that takes me essentially to the north part of town where my office is, in the Flin Flon Community Hall. So you also, it is very, very beautiful. But the rock can be a challenge. And then limited open space. As you can see, it's just how it was just put willy-nilly. There were stories of people going to borrow wood from the mine or whatever to be able to build houses way back when, 80 years ago. And so it's just, there's really only about oh, hi. And there's about 3, there's about 3 flat spaces. One is the airport. And one is I love dogs. One is the airport. there's a soccer area, and there's this creekside area that's a bit of flat land. Other than that, there's really limited open space. So we can't just go into a field and necessarily unplug tents and stuff like that. So so that's one of the challenges. Okay, so now we're going to go into advantages. And you'll see what we found. It took me a while to realize that some of my advantages are actually the challenges. What I realized being in a more remote community is that I had no competition. So when we had an opportunity to work with Elias Kolakundis, who's a shipping magnate, but he's also was a playwright. The first time we were in Carnegie Hall, and we talked about that. And he says, you know, Crystal, when I look over my shoulder in Manhattan, there's 5 million people or however many people are in Manhattan. When I look over my shoulder, there's nobody there. We both might as well just do what we want. And one of the things that I also realized when the first time we did a Northern, I just want Northern, all Canadians to be able to have the same opportunities and experiences as that I've been able to have, and so one of them was Messiah. I thought everybody in their lifetime should be able to hear a live of Handel's Messiah. So we organized a tour, and one of the senior elders in our community was from Holland, and he was concerned about this because he said in Holland you couldn't do a masterwork. It would only be the elite choirs in that country that would be allowed to do that. And so and I think in my, you know, in my 20s and 30s, I would have realized, yes, you know, this kind of thing as well. But I realized, no, that's just not fair. And I want to both hear those sounds, and I'm curious to see whether or not we can do great things with whatever talent we have in our communities. And so I realized that no competition was a real advantage when you're first starting off and you're doing something creative. Something with Culture Days at the very beginning, when I heard about it, it was like, oh, this is great. I can just sort of flounder around trying to figure out how to do it. And then, you know, we'll see what happens from there. And then also realize that volunteers in remote communities, and now we know that in a lot of our communities, there's always the same people doing the same thing. And they tend to get tired, and you tend to get overwhelmed. It can happen. But I also found, again through Culture Days, but just generally that there is an eagerness for something new. You know, you just have to find the right recipe of what people like. But there is an eagerness, not just my personal experience, for new ideas, and volunteers are happy, providing you tweak it a little bit, to be able to try something new. So we've been able to be successful with that. And then we are also good at creating our own fun. So it might be different than what anybody else might do in the country or in other communities. And I've known from being with the different arts organizations in Manitoba, that there is just these interesting ideas happening all around our province. And I know from Culture Days all around our country that I scour the country and I say, wow, I want to do that. You know, how do they do that? And so there's great things that you're able to do. And then I finally had my piece with Flinty. Flin Flon is easy to remember, it's easy to spell, it has this intriguing history, you know, and then I realized that this character, again, there's a New York link, he was designed, and it must have been with the Whitneys having connections, by Al Cap, the famous cartoonist. And when I realized that, I went, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I liked it. So I stopped, I got off my high horse about Flinty, and I thought, well, if we're going to use him, let's go for it. Let's make Flinty work for us, and let's do something fun with it. And then another asset, I realized that we are quirky. You know, it's okay to brag about our smokestack and our sewer boxes. And then again, I mentioned the name about Al Cap and with the Flintabity or Flintavity Flonitin, and that we were able to use that. Right now, I think it might say the next one. But anyways, in June 10th, there was a global news announces Flin Flon being one of the 10 top quirky towns to visit for Canada 150. So I'm like, okay, capital of quirk. I'm sure all of you have other things that you can celebrate, but you know, whatever. This is where we are. And then I found with distance, that became an asset too, is that we were able to really develop our own independence as in terms of how we want to do things. And I've had a chance to really bring a busload of people to Winnipeg to celebrate some of the big orgs, because I feel big organizations, I really want to celebrate that. And I was telling them, you know, people from away are used to traveling. So we can easily, and they have money in Flin Flon, there is money. So they can easily just come down to Winnipeg, jump on a plane and go to wherever, or go to Saskatoon and jump on a plane and go to wherever. They have independence. And so there is this opportunity of saying, well, can we perform with New York? You know, can we do this or that, the other thing? And the answer has been yes. And opportunity for new ideas. We have this a vibrant, like we all have here, vibrant local arts councils or arts organizations that really help make things happen. Like they help us financially sort of support new projects where little organization, it's difficult to do on your own. And then we've been able to really develop some, there's an emergency, not here though, we're good. People are out in Canada, and have some really creative collaborations. Then in terms of venues, we started to look around and we started to hunt for every venue that we could possibly find. We have this rotary wheel that we didn't really consider for Culture Days the first time because it closes down in the end of August, beginning of September. So we went and spoke with the city of Flin Flon and said, well, can you keep the water? Can you keep it open just one more month? Just one more month, and then can you give it to us for free? And can we, you know, what can we do? Who has tents? What can we do for venues? So we just took a real stock as of to what the venues are, and we found that we had a lot more than we actually thought about. So I have this other little, yeah, you put that for me, please.
Do a quick switch.
Yeah. Yeah. So this will just zip through quickly. I just had a presentation. We had some scholars together a couple of months ago, and oh. And then after this, maybe I'll just do a little few little questions if anybody has any questions, and then we'll keep on going to the next piece. So our motto, again, with our little arts council, it's not there. Yeah, we do not have mountains.
Sorry, 1 second.
Is it? Okay.
1 second, sorry.
No problem. Yeah. So we say supporting art in the North and Northern artists. So our sort of desire, and which is why Culture Days was a perfect fit for it, was to be able to be more regional and see what we could do. Good? Okay, thank you. Hand for technologists. Thank you, thank you. So again, some of this will zip through, you've already seen. You've seen that. That's Flin Flon, the Saskatchewan border, performing arts community. What we ended up doing, and these were the assets. When I first looking at whether or not we could do anything for Culture Days, I started just to take a look at the assets that we had. And we have the performing arts, we have a visual arts, the Norva Arts Center, which is gets funding from the Urban Arts Center, the Government Manitoba Urban Arts Center funding. What else do we have here? We have a Writers Guild, and there is actually Brenda Schmidt. That is not her in the picture. That was the former poet laureate, but she's now, Brenda Schmidt has just been dubbed about a few months ago the new Saskatchewan poet laureate. And again, we take advantage of that. Being a border community, the Flin Flon Arts Council, half of us are from Manitoba, half of us are from Saskatchewan. So we really embrace that. A flavor I wanted was I wanted to see a TIFF film, so I just called Toronto. I said, is that possible? Can we be connected with the, like Gimli, you guys are already, the Central Canada, with the Toronto International Film Festival. And then we had all of that, and that led to, well, can we, from what the core of what we have, can we be involved with Culture Days? And so that's where we got started with that. We have this program called Dancing Down Main Street. We'll talk about the stuff later on, but I'll zip through, which was, first time it was one of these crazy ideas. I thought, okay, it's going to be me and 3 friends dancing down Main Street. I am not a dancer, let me tell you, behind the RCMP. And luckily people arrive, and that's a big popular thing. Now, culture and heritage, we really had an opportunity to really connect with all of our different cultural communities and learn and share a lot together. The sharing that we had this first experience, and I think maybe, I don't know if it's the next picture as well. Let's see. Yeah, there's a National Assembly in Cranberry Portage, and they had built this amazing grand teepee. And so I thought there was a performance I wanted to be able to have where I commissioned a local composer by the name of Jim Hiscott to do a piece. It was 4 minutes long. I thought that 4 minutes does not make a concert. So I sent a letter, first time I'd ever done this, to the elders, and I said, is this something that's done? Can we do a cross-cultural gathering? Is there something that, can you help us with that? And so it was fabulous. We learned so much, and it was the beginning of so many collaborations I have now with Culture Days in terms of my offerings to the elders or the people that are involved with any of my programs now, actually. It was great. Again, different kinds of heritage and arts and culture for the kids. Tons of that happening there. And then through Culture Days, the very first one, we were able to spread our wings into a larger, or actually, this was even before Culture Days, but through all this activity, we were able to spread our wings, and so that's us at the Linger Center. The little logo, by the way, remember my complaining about the Flin Flon Community Choir? I held on to the name Flin Flon Community Choir. I was thinking it was either that or Aurora Coriolis. And so I thought, no, before I die, I want to see if the word community can be considered something sophisticated, or does it have to always be, plebeian? Is there a way we can get people to rethink the word community? And so we held on to that. And then somebody came up with a logo of like Flin Flon Fortissimo, that's strong, and the bass claps were sort of reversed, but whatever. And so I thought, well, that's a good attempt. And so that was a good time. And then of course Culture Days, that we were able to really enjoy that. And from that, and we're not going to go into this, there is a website if you're interested in that. We have started, it's taken us 8 years. Since the very beginning of Culture Days was the first time somebody from the federal government came and was asking us about, what we want our future to look like. And we've been working on this North Central Canada Centre of Arts and Environment, where we just had the feasibility study released to the public. And, that's a lot about that. So we're not, this is just from a previous presentation, so I'm just going to zip through this. And then maybe we'll take a few questions. Yeah, sorry about that. And we are going to be starting this building skills pilot project leading into Culture Days, where we're so excited about this one. We're bringing in John Allen, who's one of the bigger has a huge firm in London, England. And we spoke about what's happening in Canada and in the North and with the Indigenous communities, other things that are happening around that, which I can't get into right now. But he is coming in from England the week leading into Culture Days and checking out Culture Days. So we're going to be able to have a nice connection between Culture Days and Manitoba and England. So we're kind of excited about spreading that word this year. So that is some of our assets and challenges. The next piece we will go into will be with the magician of the technologist. But before we do that, if anybody's any questions up to now, I'm happy to sort of try to, yeah.
We'll just get you to use the mic here if you have questions, just so people online can hear as well. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
You mentioned that you looked at the venues. I'm curious, did you look at venues with the artists that you had lined up in mind, or did you just start with venues and then just kind of work from there?
No.
What came first?
Yeah, no, it's always with artists in mind. It's usually I have a need, and then I try to make it fit, is the way it's worked for us. And so, that being said, at the very beginning, every year actually, we take an assessment of all of our venues, and we see which, you're always trying something new, so which ones work, which ones didn't work, which ones are have room for growth. But essentially, no, when we have a need, then we do whatever we can, and it's like that, what is it, the breaking of the loaves or whatever, that it's just somehow we're up to 104 events and we've been able to find spaces for everything. I don't know, it's amazing. Yeah.
We just need to bring the mic to our people so everyone can hear. This is Jen.
And my name is Genevieve Henderson, and I'm an artist, but I'm also involved in my community of Springfield. We have an annual arts, music, wine night, which we started 4 years ago, and it's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But we need new ideas and stimulation, and to even expand that even more, which is why I'm here. But I was kind of interested in the last topic you had about your guest speaker from Britain.
Okay, yeah, John Allen.
Yes. And what exactly is the skills development project?
Really? Okay, if you want me to
please
talk about where we at time. Okay, so I'm happy to share this. One of the things that we have developed, and with this North Central Canada Centre of Arts and Environment, and maybe living in the place that we live in, I just realized that there was this natural connection between art and environment. And built environment is it's inclusive of environmentalism, but it is healthy places to live. So that might be a town square, that might be an urban setting, that might be a rural development. It could be, it's very broad, which is why it's been 8 years of us trying to figure this out. So what building skills will do, and this fellow in particular, we're going to be in, it's going to be connected also with, and it doesn't really matter, but is that his passion and the books that he's written, and he's a teacher, he also teaches at the Princess Foundation in Scotland, is geometry, the spatial relationship between geometry, all things geometry, the geometry of a flower, the geometry, spatial relation, the golden mean or the golden spiral, and how we live, whether it's urban planning or whether it's a building or whether it's a drawing. And so this is going to be essentially a conversation for the country, to be able, the very first heartbeat of a conversation of the country, joining those two topics. And I've had so many great conversations with everybody from, well, ACI was one of the first people I spoke with, as well as with Tom, as well as everybody, all the major arts organizations, anybody I could possibly talk to about this topic. And it seems to be something that I see where I live, an essential conversation to really try to figure out how to have options for healthy environments. If a mine closes, let's say in Leaf Rapids or Lynn Lake, the mine closed. What happens to that community? What happens when a town loses its key doers? You know, what happens with our lives, and can we make? We think of some of the challenges, some of that are happening in some of our northern communities, where there's reserves and that the youth are struggling to be able to have. And I know that we are all on technology, like, so we know what we don't have and we know what we have. So it's not like, you know, the out of the ordinary is part of that, is like, you know, we want to be able to expand our horizons. And we think that art is definitely a response to that question. And we think that there's a natural linkage between that. And so that's something that he's really passionate about as well. So we're bringing him in, as well as there's another person that just in from Egypt, an archaeological photographer, who's also, her passion is birch bark biting and Middle Eastern. Anyways, I'm going way off in a tangent. You've got to tug your ear, Carol, when it's, you know, we have a little code here. But but anyways, we are wanting to have a conversation to join not only the community within Manitoba, but also nationally and also internationally, the spatial relationships between Middle Eastern geometry and birch bark biting, for example.
Actually having a conference?
Well, this is going to be a pilot course. This first course in leading up to Culture Days is going to be a pilot course.
And who is your audience?
The people that we feel we can have between 12 and 18 participants. All of you who are part of this conference, or, you know, you get the news first, and we'll be able to hold, 12 to 18 people, whoever, and it's not necessarily, it's not one age group. We're wanting people with a passion to really learn and to share in a conversation about this. And so we have kids that are in Frontier School Division, and that are like the 18, 17, 18, and we have people that are retired that are interested. We have people that have their doctorate degree in architecture, and we have people that are engineers. So there's this real cross section of people we're getting together to really have a deeper conversation about culture and in our country and in the world. Welcome.
Well, that sounds quite wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you know, cost is prohibitive flying up to Flin Flon.
Well, you know what? It's a challenge and an asset, but you know what? There'll be many people coming out there, and so, you know, people can always call me at the Arts Council, Flin Flon Arts Council office, and we will figure out how to make it happen.
Will there be a webinar? Or?
Yes. Well, a webinar, I don't know, because it's going to be in different locations in town too. And again, this is just a pilot project. We're trying to see whether this will actually fly for the 3-week course, which we're hoping to be able to have endorsed by a major funder.
Yes, that's a very almost global.
Yes, that's the concept. We're
really
yes.
That sounds very exciting.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, you know.
Are there any questions on the chat box?
Okay. Okay. So now this is more specifically about, you heard the history of the challenges and the assets that we have within my own little community. And so this is how we've sort of been able to move things to towards where we are now in our history of things. So we were essentially just transforming challenges to assets. This, in the beginning, we were invited. Jean Giguère called me, and I had met her only once, about 2 years earlier, by accident, and we didn't know each other at all. And she said, "We're starting this new pan-Canadian celebration of arts and culture." living where I am and doing what I wanted to do, it was like, are you kidding me? You're inviting me to be part of a pan-Canadian? I am craving to know what's happening in the rest of my country. I'm craving to know what's happening in Portage or Brandon, and you know, we're all so busy with our own world just trying to create. It was, I said, I will self-fund to get down to these meetings. I will do whatever I can because I see this as so important to our country to be able to have this opportunity to share. I need to know what's going on. So the first thing they did, there was at the art gallery, and Nicole Mariation actually had been the CEO, and she made us our first professional sign, the Flin Flon Arts Council supporting art and art, which we now still tape onto everything because we should have gotten something that could hang or something. But it was like this humongous moment in our lives. It just it was that particular moment that taught me if you invest, and it wasn't super expensive, on some kind of a quality product, it lends a dignity and a sophistication to it. And so it was, that sign was a huge lesson to me. And so these are some of the things. So I asked people, could I bring your birch bark biting? Elena Jelski, can I bring your pottery? Can I, you know, I made some really unprofessional brochures. I had, you know, and I just, that was it. I'm gonna go back here a bit. And I had taken a workshop here just before it was with Culture Days with Paul Gudgeon, who had been in town and for a presentation, and he had said, you know, you have to have a place where people can come to get information, and it should be definitive. And I thought, what is that? I don't know how to do that. What does that look like? And I was talking around town, and I don't know why I didn't know that already, but they still use exploration tents, mining tents, which is what this is, to go out into the field. So I called the company and I asked them, can I borrow one? Can you set one up for me? And these things are really interesting. They have a little place for like a smokestack in them, and there's flooring, and it's kind of definitive of who we are, where we are. So that was essentially the very beginning. We had the community hall, and then we had one more venue. We had a tent, and we had churches, and we had schools, and we had, you know, one field, two fields. So that's how that started. And so we talked about this a little bit, but I was like, where do I start? And you know, when you're flailing, when you're roaming around, you're going, what do I do? How do I do this? Who do I talk to? I bought into hook, line, and sinker when we were first meeting in Winnipeg in 2007 and 2008, that arts and culture is infused in everybody's life. It's like, welcome to my family. We actually have the Flin Flon Bombers that are part of our Culture Days. They have a street hockey game. It's like, welcome to my family. We design your t-shirts, probably your puck and your stick, you know, and so and so they, you know, they love it. So we looked into what we have, and we knew we had, I hope I don't have too many doubles here. Oh, we had arts and culture. You all have your little groups that are happening in your communities. We have a community band. You'll see a very sophisticated recorder in this band. You see a fiddle. You see a kid in grade 9 or grade 8 or 9, and you have and they just play their hearts out and just have a great time, and it's all very important. And so that was the very first Culture Days. I thought, well, okay, we're going to have arts and crafts. So I set up something for the young kids, the 5, 6, 7, the families, and look who is there. It's the 20 and 30 somethings. They came and they made masks to their heart's content. They just, you know, and that taught me, you never know. You never really know what people are going to like. You know, you can sort of do a smorgasbord of things, and let me see what happens if I go here. Oh, nope. Nope. Sorry, everybody. Okay. And so then we looked at the local arts groups that we have. Now, some of this is a little newer. We have again, there's a Flin Flon Community Choir, cute picture in the snow. I thought, what makes this different, you know, rather than on a stage behind whatever, there we are in the snow. And we have our Norba Center. This was right at the very beginning before they actually they just got into the new building at that point. And so that was a real asset. To be able to know we have visual artists, we have a Northern Palette Art Club, we have we had a children's choir at that point as well, and so then we took stock at what we had in terms of different resources. The school picture here, I don't know if it'll get bigger or not, but this is teachers doing a flash mob here for the students. That was the second Culture Days. The first Culture Days, we decided we were going to organize everything for everybody, and the schools, we court the schools like September, October, November, December, and they said, no, this Culture Days, we are going to make it easier. We don't want to do the busing of kids everywhere around the school. We're just going to do an activity in every school. And we said, that is great. And so they did a flash mob, but they realized how much work it was. So year 3 is like, no, we'll find bus money, and here, you go do it. It'll be fine. So we realized 15 minutes outside of town, there's a Baker's Narrows Lodge. And so we had, you took advantage of that. So all of a sudden we're into 6 or 7 venues, and we put a big tent outside of Baker's Narrows Lodge. And then we realized we went to the public library, and ended up, they have I'll talk about that later, Human Books, which might work so well for you, or maybe you do that already, I don't know. That's just a really, really, really popular, beautiful, profound experience. So, and then we looked at some of the traditional arts and cultures that we had. So of course we had the 7 sacred teachings, or the 4 directions, and that's Ms. Morasti. This is lovely pieces. With the beading, we have Teresa Ride. Actually, her caribou hair tufting, we actually had commissioned her to give a work to Queen Elizabeth for a Diamond Jubilee. And then we have, people that have immigrated to our communities, and I know so many of you have that. Like Flin Flon is interesting in that we're connected internationally because of the mines. So we're connected to Mongolia or Chile or South Africa for sure. And so there's these people that come from away. And so we figured that out. And then crafters, like we all have crafters. This was our former mayor who would make a kayak for each of his grandchildren. And we said, well, George, will you come and show people how to do that? And we found, and I'll talk more about that afterwards too, there's crafters, there was that. So we knew we had that. Then we had to try to figure out where and when to do it. At the year 1, it was 27 events. I thought, this is impossible. I don't know, how am I going to do this? I don't know what to do. But as you can see, we kept looking, searching for different events. If we needed a tent, it's like, how do we find money for a tent? Would somebody help to donate money for a tent? Which event does this speak to? And so we did that. In terms of a timeline, the way I approach, and I don't put particular dates here because it's like herding cats sometimes a little bit, but the very, very beginning, of course, we all do that. We get started with any kind of grants or and start looking at my scouting out in the world who new contacts would be. If somebody's is returning home and is a violin player, or somebody is visiting somebody, and like Hilary McDonald, the archaeological photographer, who lives most of the time in Egypt or Syria or whatever, and she happens every once in a while is home. And so then I confirm my signature events. The more you do, the more you have key events that you know are most likely going to go. So like that would be your event, but that is I call it a core event or a signature event, and make sure everybody still go for that. And I think I covered the mic, sorry. I'm gonna go for that. And then also I think it's also very important, maybe we'll talk about philosophy a little bit. is that if people say, no, I don't want to, that's okay. I just so believe that we have to give all ourselves the freedom. Sometimes it's time for us to nurture, and sometimes it's time for us to be nurtured. And so I find in a community, especially with the people, like probably all of us here that are doing so much, sometimes you get to a point like, I have a wedding, I have this or whatever, I'm just tired, and it's like, no problem. But I would also say that most of the time, these people, myself included, doesn't want to be thrown out of the loop either. They want to be kept in the program. So we're just trying to see what these people want to do, where it's with easy, and yet they're still, because we love them. We want these people, you know, even though sometimes I think we're all a little pain in the neck every once in a while, but when the attention gets going, but we really want and love and need all these people to be involved. And we get the team together, and we sort of reassess what's happening. There's always 5 to 10 new ideas that come out of that. It's like, oh no, we're getting together. What's going to happen next? Which is always good. We go over our budget. I go over the budget, and I try to create a new schedule with all the new things that I think are going to be happening, and then I reassess successes and failures. You know, what worked, what didn't work so well. You know, what can I develop on, and talk to the schools. Because we love being involved with the school system, and we have a great relationship with the Flin Flon Manitoba school system and the Creighton Saskatchewan school system, where they each actually give us a little bit of money as well to be able to do this, which is, you know, you like that. And then, as anybody that's involved with Culture Days or any other programming you do, it's just starting to input the data, and it's always changing, and you're always trying to try to chase that and get that information on the website, culturedays.ca, because that is something, that's what I'm looking at to try to find my new ideas, is to see what everybody else is doing in the country. So if we can sort of all connect and put that data in there, then you never know what new things are going to be happening there. Okay, and so then I have MAP. That's an important thing, because I realized by about year 3 or 4, it's like people this has to be super accessible. People need to find out where these things are and how, where do they go. If you're going through, there's this great walk through a volcano tour. We're online. We have geologists, and there's so many people that love this particular tour of going and looking at the geology of the land and the actual history of the tour. But you have to meet someplace close by it's one of those numbers, number 7, I think, and that's at a certain time, and you see the tour. So that's something I try to get on top of. And then I call it accountability. There may be another better word for that, but and there's also information there if you want to, if you feel welcome to take some of it if you want to use whatever works for you. But I actually have a designated person, and I just realized when I was looking at this that I'm going to have to need 2 designated people now, because in 2016 I had 545 volunteers. In 2015 I had 558 volunteers. In 2016 I had almost 6,000 participants. And then in 2015, I had more. But in 2016, I had 104 events, as opposed to the previous year where I had 87. Looking at my volunteer list, that the person is frantically running around trying to get the information. There were some school events. She just put a blanket number. I think there were so many people here, and that was it. So if I have that data, and then I can say, okay, I know we've gotten to a point where I need a few people to help to go around and segment this. You know, we're only 8 years old, so we're still learning. And again, in a small community, I'm just a part-time staff at the Flin Flon Arts Council. So most of this, like all of us, is volunteerism. You're trying to figure it out as you're going along. And so that I pay really close attention to. Okay, yikes, too many events. And people are passionate. They want their events to work, and they will make it happen. And I see this over and over. And somebody calls me, I want to do a Magic the Gathering tournament for Culture Days. I go, great. What do you need? You know, and he says, I need a space. I said, yeah, great. where do you think that could be? You know, he says, I think I can get the Scout Hall, which is this little log cabiny thing in the center of town. I went, I forgot about that one. Venue number 13, you know, just popped into my radar. And so that is something I know for sure. There's there's probably more, but I categorize them into two different types of people: visionaries and practitioners. We all have people in our communities that, I have a great idea. It's going to be fabulous. We got to do this, and this is what it's going to look like. And I go, that is a fabulous idea. But this person may not be able to practically make that event happen. But it still might be a great idea. There's other people that I know that are fantastic practitioners. Like, you take the person that organizes my school events, that's like about 1,000 children. She goes, we have to do this, and that. I want to get the schools involved. Katie, can you help? What do we do? And I can imagine the superstar program and this and that. She said, okay. So she's a practitioner. So it's trying to analyze that. And again, if you have a visionary, you know, let them off the hook. If you know that they won't be able to do it, see if you can tag them on with somebody that can help make it happen. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. You just have to say, okay, is it money that you need? Do you need, do you need resources? What do you need to make it happen? And again, I have my core team, and that changes all the time. Every year there's a new core event that happens. So that becomes a new person. Everybody is welcome at every one of my meetings, and the door is always open. A guy is going to the weight room across the hall from my little office, which is, you know, like a little tiny office. And he's like, I had this great idea. When I was in someplace, I don't know where, maybe you guys didn't know, but what they do is they have mannequins in front of their houses and their businesses, or they're almost like scarecrow kind of things, representing that particular person's passion. So representing that organization. So there would be mannequins of a doctor and a nurse in front of the hospital. There'd be mannequins in front of our local cafe having a cup of coffee. If it was me in front of my house, there would be maybe a box with a mannequin. And by mannequin, I mean, you know, the pantyhose head and the straw and the arms and the with the eyes, and with in front of a big box that looks like a piano, and me, another one with me conducting. And so he said, this would be great. And I'm going, this would be great. And so I thought, well, let's just advertise it and then see if people want to do that. And you know what that's one of the ideas that kind of came out, and we'll see what happens with that. I just got an email 2 days ago from somebody who said, she owns one of those food trucks, and she says, I want to do a taste of Flin Flon for Culture Days. I'm going to ask everybody. That's going to be big. And I'm going, well, that's great. And I'm thinking, where am I going to put this? But we'll find a place for her. And so it just, as always, everything is great. Everyone is part of our team. Like I mentioned, the bombers, and community involvement. Just as which we all do. It just is anybody that we can nab to do things. Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, please. Yeah, sure.
Okay, we have two questions. One from Tracy. She says, do you have an idea what your visitation statistics were for 2016, and how were you tracking this?
Okay, and that was from the last, you mean participants? That's what she's talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Yes.
Visitation, do you mean participants, Tracy?
Because the participants here, that would be what I would consider visitation. The 5,996.
She says she means visitors to events.
Yes, that's it. So that I would call participants, yeah. And so what I do is that I have a person that is designated specifically to go to each event and get their numbers. We also ask each event manager or whatever is to keep track the best they can of the people attending their particular event. Sometimes that's really easy. For example, for the 7 Sacred Teachings, they have supplies for, let's say, 200 participants. So they can just look at their supplies at the end of it and see what they have left, or so people are getting pretty good. It was a learning curve to try to get on top of that, but people are getting pretty good. Hope that answers.
Okay, we have one more question
Sure.
from Judy. With so many events, do you ever feel people can't go to it all, or any events suffer with attendance? We struggle with that decision. Better during culture days or another weekend, so events are spread out.
This was Judy?
Yeah.
You know, Judy, this was something I understand completely. We struggled with that in year 2. Once we went from 27 to about like 48 events, we had to make a decision, because where we were located, there was a place out at the lake, Baker's Narrows Lodge, which was beautiful. We realized that we would have to dovetail events. And so we tried to make them 15 minutes, dovetail by 15 minutes. And I had to convince a lot of people of this. Everybody was, it was really tricky to manage this, because we all worry about the people coming to those events and whether or not they'll feel bad if it's more or less attended, or people are leaving in the middle. And the way I saw it is that this Culture Days, this particular festival is designed to give people opportunity to explore new experiences with arts and culture. So I told our audience, our performers, that this is going to be a bit of a different scenario than just one thing or the other. And so we had that understanding. There are still some events which really, it's awkward for you to leave in the middle of it. It was a theater event in a very, very small venue. And so, but we just made a conscious decision that it was okay if there were multiple events. And honestly, every event is packed. The way I saw it was that we're small, and there's people now coming from all over the region for Culture Days. It's small, but we still have 5,000 people in a venue that can hold 75 people. You know, it's okay. And so we have found that it has been a complete success, but we did let the performers know that this was going to be the situation. There was, and this is compounding all the time now for us. There was one, we have a radio theater, a fellow that had been graduated from the University of Manitoba. He's also our radio announcer, and he's also a playwright. And so he wanted to do one of those radio theater productions where you have, you know, the clip clop of the, you know, of the horse's feet, and it was a huge success. It was also scheduled at the same time as a major signature event we have at the library. And I know people love to go to the library, and I know people loved to go to his event. So I asked him to do it twice. I said, can you do it at that time slot, and can we do it again on the next day, the time slot, so that people can go to the library, which is only a one-time event, and then they can see your show the next day. So we tried that, and it was perfect. It worked out really well. I hope that helps a little bit.
That's good. That's all the questions on mine.
Okay. Okay, we're actually doing really, and so far so good. Okay, yes, and that has to do with that. Yikes, too many events. What do you do? Okay, sorry. Come on, there we are. Okay, managing your assets and the stress. Okay, this is the same thing. Yikes, too many events, I think. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. You know, sometimes you do these things and you don't realize you did the same one twice. Okay, so stress. So there was a conference I was at, and I actually asked that of somebody. I said, you know, how do you handle your stress when you're doing something like this? And he said, you know, if you can't take the stress, don't do it. And I went, okay, well, but you know, and I said, well, I feel kind of sheepish that I asked that, but as the years have come and go, I think it's a really good question. And I think that there are some tools, and I would like to, anybody that has, you know, comments on this, I would really appreciate it. But the solutions that the things that help me, I don't even know there's solutions to stress, is that if you have a good team, you know, you can count on them to problem solve for you rather than you having to do all the problem solving. That's me, that you're one, you can see the bags under my eyes. This was like, you know, 6 hours into the Saturday of college, the very 2010, and going, I'm in another part of town, I don't. And so, but it got solved. And then I call it option B, divide and conquer. It's like, what if it snows? Now, in Flin Flon, it snows typically in the middle of September, and then it's sunny and beautiful, and you are on, you know, you're biting your nails until Culture Days is done. And I don't know, you know, here down south, here in Winnipeg, whether I think you've had challenges with wind and rain. We all have challenges, and so we have an option B. Now we've decided, and I fought this. I don't know why I fought this for so many years. For 3 or 4 years, I said, no, it will not snow. It will not rain. It will be fine. And then I realized, with the wisdom of my good team around me, said, no, we have to have options for everything. Has to be able to go inside if we need to go inside. Where will that be? So it was like, oh man, got to find more venues, you know, and we did, but it was trying to find that option. Then I call it divide and conquer. It's just, we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's really compartmentalized, so it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I have 104 events. It's like, what are the chunks? And then, of course, you know, making sure that I'm okay with my budget, always a little scary. Letting other people do things, which we always know and we always talk about. But it's just, you know, sometimes it may not be exactly the way you like to do it, or the way you want to do it, or the way you see it done, but letting other people do it. And then being open to change and surprises. And there's always a surprise or change. Remember that big grand teepee that we had, for that cross-cultural gathering with 2008, we ended up having a pipe ceremony, and Marcel Debray was involved with that, and we had the elders. And I remember sitting there, and they had said, you know, be prepared for change. I'm going, oh, no. There can't be any change. I'm not prepared for change. Can we stop the ceremony right now? I just want to talk about that before we lock anything in, because I'm a type A organizer. And so he said, well, you know what, just be prepared for change. And the change was 10 minutes before we were about to have our celebration, there was a couple of van loads of people from Puckatawagan and the PA that came with full regalia. It was just incredible. So, you know, so hopefully it's always positive, but you know, you never know what's going to happen. This is how I compartmentalize. So this is sort of there's more than this, but it's kind of a snapshot. We have our school programming. With our Superstar program, there's about 10 events. Our high school programming, we usually have keynote speakers, that's what works, or going to the Norva Center. There's elementary school programming. There's Culture School for Kids, which is our preschool programming. There's about 15 to 20 events. We have Kids Culture, which is in the Rotary Wheel. There's many events there. And this is sort of a snapshot of some of the things we have for Culture Days. And then we have our signature events, which are one big event. So for each of these things, I just try to have key people involved. So, for example, Superstar program, now we knew we had the Flin Flon Community Hall. I use every nook and cranny in that place. We go to the provincial building, and I ask them if we can use the judges' chambers. We go across the street to City Hall. They do the juggling in the city council chambers. We go to the primary health care across the street, and we ask if we can use their meeting room. Oh, sorry. And oh, I see. And then the public library, those are the places that we have our Superstar program. What happens with Superstar, if anybody wants to use it, it's just so great. We bust the kids in, and we have experts in between dance, we have henna, we have somebody living now that's here from the Middle East, henna, we have circus skills and visual arts, and there's a makeup artist. He was getting a scar. He was really excited about that. And then they have only about an hour and a half to learn this art form, and they have to showcase it for each other for a half hour. So all these different kids in schools are together, and it's just this really great sort of opportunity. Okay, so that's what we do for that. Culture's Cool for Kids. We have a church that let us use all there's a little school that we used to be attached to this church, and so they just let us use every room in there for the preschool events. It's called Culture's Cool for Kids, and that's them doing cooking, banding, making, I think. There, and then the Rotary Wheel is where we have the kids culture. The Rotary Wheel is this big, round, indoor-outdoor kind of venue with the big fireplace pit in the middle, and we have our panning for gold there, and we have arts and crafts and the 7 sacred teachings, and just outside of it, there's a real fish pond, like a real little with little trout. So they never catch anything because they're just little trout like that, but we give them a little fishing rod, and they get little bags of those goldfish crackers and gummy worms after this. So it's kind of fun. And Where the Wild Things Are outdoor market, brand new last year. This is going to get bigger. This is where I wanted to celebrate, which we did not have in our community, our local goods, like our wild rice and our honeys and the foodstuffs and our crafters. And so this was one of the cases where I went to the 30-something, and I said, I want to celebrate this. And we have Creekside where the LARPing is, and she turned it into, there's this little flat area, and then there's this grove of trees. She said, if we could get 4 or 5 tents, and we'll sprinkle them in between these trees like a little village. And it's just, and she got the leftover hay bales from the zoo, and that's going to get really big this year. That's going to be really fun. And again, our signature events, we use the public library, Johnny's Social Club. We just keep finding, more events or more places to have them. Then How I Tackle Culture Days, again, community involvement. Let's see if I have anything on that. Okay, so this one, again, the very first one, I was looking for people to volunteer and help with some of our events. I ended up renting a great big tent for the entertainment, because that's the only thing I could think of. We had to use the community hall for something else. I asked the mine if we could use their land next to the community hall, which they said was fine. The first time that had been used, and in decades. And so, and then I asked people from one church group. I said, you can take all the money. Would you provide food for this thing? You can just use it as a fundraiser for yourself. They said, yeah. Then I talked to some miners, and I said, I want people, we're forgetting our heritage. We're forgetting Tom Creighton and David Collins and the heritage people. We're 80 years old, which means there's still people that are alive that are from the beginning of our community, but it's being lost. And so they got into it. They got costumes. We did. It was just, they loved it. And then again, that's building that prospector tent for us to use as a sort of an info location. Governance, something I really had to talk about to myself, I guess, is that who's going to be in charge if there's a problem, what kind of structure do we use, who's making decisions regarding event selection, who's doing the data entry, that kind of stuff. And then great events and crazy ideas. Everything is possible, but maybe. So again, from the core, we were able to get, I don't know, I can get this bigger. Oh yeah, okay. So we were able to get some new ideas from the very beginning, that very first few events. Now we have human books, and this is what I want to tell you about. The human books, everybody, actually, it is such a great event, and maybe, our librarian heard about it from someplace. So it's not novel, but what we do is that we bring in, or she finds, interesting people in our community that are human books. So we have had, and I think I might later on have a picture, we had a person that's family had escaped from, I think it was North Korea, and they had been separated on the ship, the dads from the mothers and children. They had floated to an island where the people kicked them out and dropped them off in the center of the ocean, where they thought they were going to die. They got picked up by a ship, one part of the family ended up in Toronto. The dad somehow survived and ended up in Vancouver. 10, 15 years later, they find each other by accident. So he tells his story. We had a young man that was back from Afghanistan from the second tour. We had a Baba that loves making Easter eggs. We have Urban Head, who's an Indigenous sculptor. We had a priest that had troubles with, was a recovering alcoholic. We had people, the person that returned to our community and had been ostracized because he's gay, and returned back and had that conversation, and is now just an integral part. Just has refallen in love with the community is now, and so those are the kind of conversations. So what you do is that they have a little table and they have the keynote speak, the human book. We had Sadia, who is a woman, a Muslim woman that covers, and in that case, if you have any case, if a person where they're being ostracized, a little bit of this, if there's a problem, they can just close their hands and the book is closed and the conversation is stopped. So if there's a person that is being, I'm trying to think if there's another word, this escaped me right now, but if there's a problem, pardon me? Yeah, a little harassed, but you know, sometimes I can think of Sadia. There was a person. Now she did not close the book, but it said, you know, I don't believe women should cover. I don't, you know, and so she had a little bit of that, and so she just explained, you know, this is her tradition. This is not her husband's tradition, and so so if there was a problem with that conversation, they could close the book, the human book, and there would be no more conversation. But you'll see pictures later on. Then people, there's wine and cheese, and it's an event, and you just go around and you talk to each of these human books. You talk to them, and it's profoundly, it's a beautiful experience. Oops. Culture Cool for Kids. There'll be more things I think I can show pictures on later on. A little bit more interesting. This was the smudging ceremony, which is now part of the elder blessing and the smudging ceremony. At the very beginning, I could tell there was it was new and there was a bit of a hesitancy, and now it's so funny. There was a lady beside me when elder, she was like, I told them they should have gotten 2 smudgers. Nobody listened to me. And so now it's just really, I'm very proud of that. It's just this comfort level. There's a picture of the human books. So this is the fellow Tri who was talking about his adventure, his family story, essentially. And they're sprinkled. We started with, I think, 6 or 8 of them, and now we've settled at about 6 books, 6 human books. And there's always interesting people in your community. Like there's always interesting people in your community. Somebody visiting even or whatever. It's great. Pictures at an exhibition. This has become another signature event. Oh, if anybody, visual artists, this one's the profound. There's usually tears involved with this. It's very profound, and I'll show you a little excerpt of it. If we have the time. What it is that this is at our Northern Visual Arts Centre. It could be any place though. My husband was just in Scotland and did it in one of the churches there, or in the one of the castles there. But what we do is you're surrounded by artwork, and usually we can fit about 100 people in there. And first come, first serve. People get to choose an artwork. The artwork is brought to the front, and my husband, I said he'd been accompanist for Rowan and Pig Ballet and contemporary dancer, so he has this ability. But we've been able to find other people in either in the region that also are interested and willing to do this. The other person in this picture, and I don't know if I can see it. He had arrived. He got married to a friend's daughter. He was from China, and he's a musician in China, a really accomplished musician, also with Chinese flute. And there was one work that was brought up, and it was this artwork created by a local artist of the mine, the smelter, and the lava, looks like lava, the ore, flowing through it, and it's this rich, vibrant color imagery, and he really was emotional looking at this, because he was so infused with this element of taking the 2 arts and joining them like this, and then thinking of the wealth that we have in Canada working in a mine compared to the challenges, the real in his country of China, was we had to just move on to another artwork because it was really emotional.
So, how does the artwork shows? Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
I'm very interested in this because I'm an artist.
Yeah, no, you would. This is everybody, and Mark would come to anybody's because he just is what he does, loves doing. He would just do it for you.
Well, as an artist at our library, where we do have our art event and music and that sort of thing, and it's wonderful. It is really wonderful. And a few times I've done presentations, and I call them narratives from the canvas. And in a way, what's interesting is not so much the artist is talking about it, but somebody who has chosen to speak to the art, which to me would be just thrilling.
It's really magical, and I'll show you. There's a little bit of an example here it's about a minute long, I think. But it's a triangle. So you have the person in the audience that says, I don't know what, I love that artwork, and it's brought to the front so everybody can look and say, well, either I love it or I thought of it. I don't get it. And then the music is infused. This is just a raw interpretation of that particular artwork. And then if the artist is present, it's always interesting because the artist says, how did you know that's what I was feeling? You infuse that spark, that extra element that was there. Like, how did you know? And so anyways, I'll play a little bit of this one. Sorry, go.
It also means that the artist lands up having perhaps a whole different perspective, which is fascinating because we want to know how people view our art. So the benefits all the way around.
It really does. It really does. Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you know what? And we call it we call it pictures at an exhibition, like from the Mussorgsky, because Mussorgsky is a famous, number. But anyway, so this is a little bit of an example, hopefully. And it's only about a minute long. Is that too loud? That's the artwork there. That was displayed. Trumpeting of War. And is the name of the artwork. And I'll see if I can get out of that. Did I just mess this up? Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we are. Oh, okay. Great. Well, that was easy. So yeah, pictures at an exhibition, really profound. Like people, we've had a person that was a dancer that came to town, Janelle Hacot, and she's from Flin Flon, now she's up in Montreal of the world, but she was back home, and so we asked her, did you want to dance to this artwork? And it was very profound as well. So there is that. Oops, nope. There we are. Okay, now dancing down Main Street. dancing down Main Street proves that anything's possible. Because, again, this is the thing I told you way back when, that, you know, I thought if we can all dance down Main Street, it's something that everybody can do. We're not talking about Rowan Big Ballet or contemporary dancers or, you know, whatever, Beyonce. We're talking about us dancing. And there'll be a little bit of an excerpt of that at the very end there as well. But, and we danced to a Canadian piece. So we've danced to Michael Bublé, we've danced to Dead Mouse. Somebody made a poster of us dead for that. We've danced to Indian City. We've danced to, you know, well, 8, I'm trying to remember. There's been 8 of them. And it is so joyful. And you'll see at the video at the very end, we all start nervous and we all arrive and we're all sort of wondering why we're there. And the next thing you know, the police squad car comes, you know, the lights go on, and we've had our 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes to learn this. That's it. 15 minutes and away we go. And we had Métis flags up there, and we've had dancer, the hoop dancer, you know, just people. It's a testament of our beautiful country and the things that can happen here. I think that's so surprised me. Okay, this was a thing that happened where I want to do it again. I throw it out there to Canada. I've only done it once, and what I wanted to do is that, again, owning Flinty, I thought I am going to animate Flinty, and there's a company in town, I don't know if they're still here, called Pomo, and I said, can you animate Flinty? So he'll walk on, and he'll come zip in on a submarine, or he will come with a pickaxe. And anytime anybody tweets, and we know, you know, tweeting is, you know, kind of a big thing right now. Anytime somebody tweets, then he will walk on, and the tweet bubble would show up. And then we had somebody with a computer making sure that nobody said anything, you know, derogatory. But and so it was so much fun. And what I was hoping, and the technology is probably not there, but I was hoping if I could connect with, let's say, for example, the Montreal Bonhomme, and Flinty could zip over there and show up with a tweet saying, "Hey, Montreal, you know, what's happening?" Or you know, the Swan, and then the Bonhomme could show up here saying, "Hey, we're having a good time. What's happening over there?" You know, and that way we could really communicate with all our icons, which are all pieces of art. And so I thought that was going to be really fun. So that was what was in my mind for this a few years ago. And, you know, I haven't gone any further with that because I don't know how. I don't even know if it's possible. But I thought it would be so much fun to see all these little characters, you know, the partridge going by, and then, you know, or whatever, people with their little tweets. Because I still think something that we have to do is still work on communicating with each other throughout the, I just thought it was fun. So we tried that. And this was so neat. Again, I fell for this hook, line, and sinker. Year one, they said, everything, you have everything in your community. Fashion, architecture, and I'm going, okay, fashion. So I went and I started to look around, and lo and behold, Lori Brown, she was no longer living in Flin Flon. She had just graduated from Toronto, and she's this up-and-coming fashion designer. And there was a person who was the minister's wife who was a haute couture designer selling her stuff in a high-end store in Manhattan. And then there was whoever the third person was. So we ended up organizing this fashion show. And it was, again, one of those like I've never been to a haute couture, and I love haute couture. I love seeing that art in fabric art. And so we had, and so that was like year two. Then this past year, as the publisher of our little local newspaper called The Reminder, her sister is Leslie Pedraza, who's one of the big LA fashion photographers. So I said, you know, hey, Leslie, if I could figure out how to fly you in here, you can stay with your sister and you could help us direct this couture fashion show, which we did. There was a person in our town that works in the school. She's designed our costumes for our productions for the last few years. And I know I thought, I want to do this for her. You know, when you get to certain age, you just sort of want these opportunities, you know, for the people that you love. And so we'd organized it for her and as well. And it was just a great event. So where are we at? We're close. It's going to be good, Carol. We're going to be in the time. So the elephant in the room is the money. Now I like to pay my artists an honorarium. I like to bring in guest speakers to share my artists with the community and to learn about Culture Days. I need to advertise. I love my Culture Days passport, which is those little booklets over there. And so I need money. So I look, these are things I'm sure everybody does. I look for in-kind venues, support. We end up having volunteer leadership. If I have a little bit of money left over, I try to give a couple of $100 to each of the heads of my my team, if I can. The school divisions, they give us like not only space, but they help us with support. Local organizations, even as venues, I just ask everybody. HUD Bay has become an annual sponsor, which is a huge relief. And then of course there is, you know, if you have local revitalization corporations around, anything, that's what we look for. Grants, of course, we all go through we scour those. I put Arts Council grants, is that the little Flin Flon Arts Council commits every year to putting $1,000 towards Culture Days, which is big. You know, we get an operating grant of about $22,000 a year or whatever, so that's a big commitment that they do. And I appreciate that. That makes it all possible. And there's little hidden things. I get a call from the Flin Flon School Division. There's one of the teachers that's starting a new program called Youth in Philanthropy. They got this little batch of money, $3,000, and he says, I want the kids to practice being philanthropists. Will you fill out a grant application to get money? I said, are you kidding? Yes. So I did a really sophisticated, you kind of have it pretty much ready to go at any time, grant for the youth and philanthropy, the Flin Flon School Division. And I'm getting $1,000 from the kids, and we're putting it towards the programming for their keynote speaker for the schools. And so that's another option. Donations, odd things. There's things like we have the sweetest, Dana Dadson has the funeral home, funeral director, and he loves heritage and Dancing Down Main Street. So he'll give us $1,000 towards Dancing Down Main Street and to help organize things and for the cemetery tours or whatever. And so you never know. And then we have our fundraising drives. We do those throughout the year too. And then the last bit here is getting the word out. I don't know about you guys, but paper is still a big deal for us. We, people, we love our programs. They want something in their pocket. That little program won a national design for use for that. We call it the Culture Days Passport. In there, we also put promo in there for our businesses. Yeah, that little one. And it's because it was really important to me that our businesses really benefit from Culture Days. And so we asked them, will they put 10% off of the Orange Toad or this and that and the other thing to encourage people to go into their businesses. And so we still need our newspaper articles. We get thousands of dollars worth of free advertising, and through that, we still pay like about $1,000, $2,000 worth of advertising. Posters, handbills, brochures, the whole shebang. What else? Oh, technology, Facebook, Twitter, emails, YouTube. Okay, so I think hopefully everybody has something like that where they can put a little, I'll put this, and this is me just talking about what's coming in the next Culture Days. Is that? Oh.
Amazing, it's very busy, Crystal Kolt. But it's kind of common, I think. Every year, we just sort of the sand settles a certain way, and so I'm really excited about it. And Saturday, well, we're starting off with 2 hours at the City Hall Council Chambers, where you can meet your family and friends. There's going to be cheese and beverage and coffee and tea and muffins and juice. So come and just sort of get a little bit of sustenance before we head out. At 11 o'clock, now this is where you have to listen really carefully. At 11 o'clock at Pioneer Square, unless it's cold, so we're going to go inside the community hall. There's going to be the opening ceremony. It's going to be essentially the beginning of something we call Concert in the Park in the program, in the Culture Days Passport. But we're going to have the smudging ceremony, blessing, and hoop dancing, and the Aboriginal drumming and honor songs. And from there, we go into the bucket list. Super fun. Super fun. The Flin Flon Community Choir is going to be performing 80 voices strong. Out of the chorus, we performed it in Lincoln Center last year. We performed it with the symphony. We're performing it for you this time. And so not only that are we performing it for you, we will be obeying you. So people, I don't care whether you're 3 years old or 93, you get to come and conduct the Flin Flon Community Choir, singing out of the chorus. I'll give you 1 or 2 tips on how to wave your hand, and then it's all up to you. So come and have fun with that. Looking forward to that. And the community band will be there afterwards, so that's going to be a whole bunch of fun. Then, as we keep on going through the day, there's going to be like I say, about 15 different things happening at the Rotary Wheel for Families. We have the Aboriginal communities, the Friendship Centers, BSAP. We have Head Start there, helping us with learning about the 4 directions. And so that was just such a good job. It's such a pleasure to have that group there. And so that's going to be exceptional. We have recycled art. I'm sorry, I'm missing so many, but there's going to be the Manitoba Theatre for Young People there. Isaac the Juggler, who we loved last year. Puppet Clown will be there. We're going to have fish fun. In fact, Brian Gustafson, who is one of the head bass fishers in North America, is going to be coming, flying in Friday night. So people, I know he's going to be there on hand. So Brian, so I'm talking not only the 3-year-olds, but the 63-year-old, because this is how you want to meet. And so he's going to be in town. There is going to be arts and crafts, chapel, attendance there. There's going to be LARPing, everything. That's going to be at Creekside. Norm Ewan is a new person that I just heard about. That he has these really interesting like map arrowheads. He does what is called primitive skills, primitive art. So he makes like arrowheads and bows and knives of these obsidian glass. So he will be at the LARPing tent. And so that's a LARPing. And so I know. You have to have 16-year-olds around Susan to really, learn some things that one. So yeah, that's my answer.
Anyways.
And I know as we go into the
I think I'll just stop here. It kind of gives you the idea. Oh, okay, good. So anyway, so we're trying to, yappity yap. On Facebook and Twitter and email, and again, that goes on YouTube. Oops, I'll go with the next one. Word of mouth. Now, this is an example. You see these 3 dogs dancing down Main Street. That was strictly through word of mouth because I was telling people, you know what? Everybody is invited to dancing down Main Street. If you have a pet that likes to dance, you bring that pet. And these 3 dogs just love dancing down Main Street. So, so that was strictly from word of mouth. And then finally, I guess the end of it all here, just celebrate your victories in your community. I want to hear everything about everybody and your artists and your partnerships and your volunteers. And again, it's a little bragging, but there's our little number 1 there for Culture Days. And then if you always call me at the Flin Flon Arts Council, I'm happy to respond. And I guess this is the last little few minutes, and it'll be perfect, is the last little video. Are there any other questions? Yeah, anybody else have any questions? So this is that last little video about explaining it, and that'll be it.
If anyone has any questions online, just put it into the chat box now, or if anyone has any final questions here.
Okay, and then I'll just play this video then if anybody asks afterwards.
Yeah, we're gonna watch a video here, and if anything comes up in your big old brain, feel free to put it down in the chat box. So. One of the questions is, how do you get businesses involved? What kind of perks do they get for participating?
Right. Well, yes, that is a really important thing. It depends on what business. When it comes to something like HUD Bay, they really want to have they want to support something that's successful, essentially. So that seemed to be and something that was really supporting the community. There are other businesses that just want to be part of the Culture Days passport, because there's some good press that goes around for them. We always acknowledge all of our businesses and all of our donors and all of in any kind of gratitude press, for sure. And then sometimes there are things like, for example, if we can get Calm Air has been great at giving us you can win a chance to have a free flight anywhere that Calm Air goes, and so that usually encourages other businesses to get involved in that kind of product as well. And you can have a big. Most of the time in my community, I have to say it is philanthropy. You know, it's just wanting to be a part of something that is supporting the community, and then again, like I mentioned in the passport, we try to bring special attention to our businesses to encourage visitors and people in the community to take advantage of these great businesses that we love in town.
Great. Any other questions online? Any other questions in the room?
Okay, well, here we are.
Is really, it's almost a house picture, really. It's an opportunity for bridge building, community development, capacity development. It's an opportunity for sharing, and it's an opportunity for learning. And so that everybody feels welcome at the table, and everybody kind of get a way of communicating that they should participate, and it doesn't matter how much they know, they should participate. I guess sharing is the number one thing for me. Is we all have our dreams and aspirations. We all have our love challenges. We all have our lives. And so we want to see talent, we want to experience it, and we want to share. And so we sort of try to do all of that. We try to say, you know, we may have to try something else, but we want to do it. A lot of people have here.
Okay. Sure.
There's one more question online here. Yep. Thanks for the presentation from Tracy. I know you gave an overview of grants, but what was the total dollar amount of grants you received in 2016? I'm curious to know what kind of budget for this scale of Culture Days event that you were working with.
Okay. Yeah, no, happy. So typically, I was trying to think exactly, I get about $27,000 total budget, and I always said there's about $10,000 in volunteer hours. Grants, that would be, I would say, about $5,000 to $10,000 of that is grant. The rest of that I have is fundraising. I usually get $1,000 from each of the school divisions. I do, and yeah, I would say that's it essentially. So it's not a humongous budget. It's still a budget. You really, again, when you think of the little Flin Flon Arts Council, with having the $22,000 to start with for operating year, to do something of that expense is a bit of a step, but it's that's essentially it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the room? So at this time, I would like to thank everyone for participating and remind you that it has been recorded and it will be posted on the Creative Manitoba website, creativemanitoba.ca, or the Culture Days National website. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody.